Hey guys, it's Joette with BalloonCoach.com, and today it is May 2025. While we are doing a great interview with Bill Albright from PS Helium and Balloons. And I met Bill when one of my friends, Holland in Atlanta, told me, "Hey, you've got to go to PS Helium when you're in town teaching to meet this company. They're great, they're supportive, they're the people that we get our helium tanks from." That's Holland and Sean with Balloonacy and Flowers by Holland. And Bill was awesome. He's like, "Joette, you're in town for a class. How can I support you? What can we do?" And so, right then and there, he had some cool things that I wanted to show people. And I took them to the class. And then I actually took them on my summer tour with me and got to show a lot of the cool things that he had at the shop. So, I just want to say thank you, Bill, for supporting the industry and me. I really loved your enthusiasm to help people out. And I could see that the way your staff and Linda treat people when they come into the shop is awesome. So I appreciate that because, sometimes people will go places and it seems like nobody shows up to help you out. And so it was great that you've got that team to help folks out. So what I'd love to do is for you to share who you are and how long you've been working with balloons and helium so they know a little bit about your background and you might know a few things.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. It was very nice, Joette. Um, so PS Helium and Balloons, we've been in business as PS Helium and Balloons for about 22 years. Um, Prior to that, I had a party store for 13 years in the Atlanta metro area. And through that, that's where I grew my helium business and became familiar with it and realized, hey, there's an opportunity to distribute helium in the Atlanta metro market. So really, probably did that for about 16 years, mainly helium. We carried Tough Tex balloons for promotional purposes and some other small, inexpensive lines of balloons. But we really weren't servicing the balloon decorator at that time for the most part. And really, over the last 6 years, COVID, as everybody's gotten into the air-filled balloons because of the cost of helium uh, and the supply issues with helium, uh, there's been a demand for balloons, as all of you know. So we've grown that part of our business substantially, and we're carrying right now most of the major brands, not all of them, but most of them. And we have three sales channels here. We have our walk-in business, so we have a showroom. We are not a retailer. We don't inflate balloons and you know um, offer any kind of inflation or decor services. We sell to you guys, the people who do. We do that through our showroom. We do that online. Um, and then, of course, we have our helium distribution business, which we only deliver commercially. Okay, although we do service, we'll sell to the public, rent helium. Anyone can come and pick up a cylinder. We have long-term rentals. We sell cylinders, kind of the whole gamut. And we absolutely love the balloon community. And it's really amazing. We love our customers. We really love what we do. And of course, Joette, we love her. And it's a very unique community, as you all know. And we're just thrilled to be a part of it. And I'm happy to be here today. And so hopefully, I know that everybody has a different level of knowledge of helium, and everybody has their own. You'll hear a lot of different messaging about helium. Uh, some of it's probably true, some of it's not. What I'm going to share and how I'm going to answer the questions is just based on my knowledge. Okay. So that's just kind of a disclaimer. Okay.
Cool.
So anyhow, Joette,
Yep,
said
we'll
enough.
get to it. So, and this is some of your team that you've got working at the shop, correct? On the far
Absolutely.
right is Linda. Most people who follow your Instagram are going to know her
Hmm.
for all the great videos. Who are your other team here that we've got? Are you?
Yeah. And just next to her there is Judy Rodas, and Judy is also Judy's Balloons. She has her own balloon business. She's an excellent decorator. Of course, Linda, like you said, is Balloonito. they're incredible. They're really, really good. So I'm fortunate to have them here, not all the time because they are running their own business too. Um, and then we have Zara Salinas Diaz, who you're pointing to there. Zara is our internet manager, and she is in
Awesome.
charge of everything in the back room when it comes to shipping. And then
Awesome.
yeah, we've got Eric there. Eric is well, he does a lot of things. That's an older picture, but he's actually my warehouse manager. So
Awesome. So you've got
yeah,
a great team. How many people do you have working for you currently?
we have 14 people. Three of those are part-time.
Cool. And you said that you got started in the balloon business in the 90s. Is that correct?
Yeah, basically, as I had mentioned kind of in the intro, had a party store for 13 years. As Party City came along and it became very competitive. And kind of by accident, I grew my helium business. And I could see that there was a shift that I needed to make. And of course, I took that leap after 13 years uh, of being in the party business to just being solely helium and balloons. So yeah, total in the industry a little over 30 years, more
That's
than 30
awesome.
years.
I love it.
So I've been very,
And
very fortunate.
cool. And you had talked about in the beginning that like you deliver within the Atlanta metro area. Where do people need to go if they want to get helium and they're not in the Atlanta area? Who do you suggest that they usually reach out to get their helium from?
Well, and I'm sure a lot of you have called different places and tried to get helium, and it's really going to differ depending on where you're located. Okay, every area is going to have different resources. Um, Normally, a local welding supply company, a small industrial gas company, those are the people that are usually willing to work with the end consumer. Okay, and usually they actually have pretty good pricing. Okay, so just thinking um, welding supply, that's what you're going to search for. Uh, Industrial gases, but you also may have a party store near you that offers rentals. Okay, what we do, there are some companies like mine across the country, but it's not a common business um, really to combine the helium, the walk-in trade, and all of the balloons together. There's a few people out there, LA Balloons does a really good job of it, All American, those guys. But they don't have all of them have the walk-in trade. So everybody's
Right.
structured a little different. So you're just going to have to do a little bit of research and just find somebody that's willing to service you and take care of you, and also take care of you if there is ever shortages that do come about.
Right. So while we're on that, one of the questions that had come up is why do shortages happen and are there currently helium shortages?
The short answer is no. Right now, there are not shortages that seem to be affecting the supply chain at my level, anyhow. And again, that can differ from company to company, supplier to supplier to, on the West Coast, it may be different. Okay. But we've enjoyed, plenty of supply for the last probably 2 years, although pricing does creep up every year a little bit. Um, we've actually lowered our prices on our smaller cylinders to try to make it a little bit more affordable for a lot of the people. Um, so yeah, your other question, Joette, was it where does it come from?
Well, they were just asking, like, when do those, because, sometimes people will go to a helium supplier and they'll say, oh, we're having a shortage of helium right now. So that's
Mhm.
why the prices are higher. Or,
Right.
so that's, the main thing is like,
Sure.
how they
Sure.
know
Um,
when we're quote unquote in a shortage and when we're not. Because I know like one time a shortage happened because like one of the plants was closed down for cleaning at this scheduled cleaning at the same time another one like had a fire or had a problem. And so it was
mhm.
like two major things happened at the same time. that, had made it hard. That was just one of the stories I remember, throughout the year.
Absolutely. And that was probably one of the worst times a few years ago. And it was more than two problems. It was about four or five. Everything went wrong that could as far as in the supply chain. But usually what happens, a lot of it is helium is kind of, if you think about the oil market or anything else, um, um, there's a lot going on behind the scenes that I don't even find out about until later as to what's going on. So a lot of times we really don't know the true answer why there's a shortage, similar to gas shortages in the past and things like that. Um, but normally it's due to facilities being down because they have to do safety checks. They have to, like you said, clean, do maintenance, things like that. Also, there's geopolitical reasons. Not all of the helium that we use here in the U.S. Comes from the U.S. Okay, that's starting to change, which is a great thing. So, yeah, we fingers crossed. What I hear is there, we're should be in pretty good shape for quite a while. I wouldn't let supply worries discourage you from either adding helium to the services or the products you offer right now. I think you're fine. And if you're already doing it, I also think you're fine. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Cool. I'm going to elaborate on the things I'm about to show folks because we've got a couple of great questions that talk about how PSI works with their helium tanks. But we'll start with this information first. One of the number one things that happens when people get into working with helium is they kind of message me and say, Joette, how many balloons can I fill from my tank? And I'm like, well, what size tank do you have? And they're like, I don't know. And so I'm always referring people back to like, go look at your paperwork and see what it says. And if it doesn't say, call the company and ask them what they gave you. I'm like, because I can't calculate if you've got a 110 and I'm giving you the ideas off of like a 219. So I love that you've made this the graph. This is the first one I've ever seen like this, where it's showing me 60 inches tall. So and then a person standing there and the big tanks. And what do you guys like? Are there other words that you use other than super and extra large, like the 219, 110, that kind of stuff that would go along with these sizes?
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought this up because um, so there is universal uh, you know talk and universal measurements for helium. Okay, what you see here is just what we've named our cylinders at PS Helium. You know, and that's one of the things you and I talked about, Joe. It is I kind of want to talk today as much as I can about the real world in helium, real usage. Um, our super tank, that's just a name we gave it because no one understood, years ago what a 291 or 300 cubic foot helium cylinder was. The extra large is the 219. Some people call it 200. The large is a kind of between a 110 and a 125 cubic foot. Medium large is a 100. Our medium is a 55. Then the small is a 40, and then the mini is a 20 cubic foot. Okay. Um, and that's just how we refer to them for our customers. Okay. There's also other names you'll hear if you order helium. You probably get an invoice and you'll hear, the super's a T, extra large is a K, and so on. They letter them. So just be aware of that if you're new and you're out there shopping for helium. Um, yeah, just ask questions when you're ordering.
That's awesome. Um, the other thing people had asked me about is for a helium balloon chart. So I will be getting this up for you guys also. That will have this for you guys to be able to download and use. With an 11-inch balloon, its gas capacity is 0.5 cubic feet, so a half. So like with that tank that says 20 CU, that means technically I can get 40 11-inch balloons from that little mini, correct?
Yes, that would be correct. That would be in a perfect world, though. Um,
Yep.
you know, that's based on the specification of a balloon and what the manufacturer, what they determine, the cubic feet or the measurement should be to have their balloon, at the perfect size. Zero point 0.5 cubic feet is a great average starting point. You'll see zero point 0.4, occasionally zero point 0.6, but I would use zero point 0.5.
And one of the questions that people have is like with using this chart, we're looking at it and saying, okay, we'll go and look at the largest tank, the 291, the super on the far right. And so technically what that would mean is that I can get 582 11-inch balloons out of it. And we know that's in a perfect world, balloons pop, all that. Sometimes, the nozzles are going to leak some. The question is let's say somebody opens up their tank. When they first open it up and they look at the PSI on their little gauge, typically mine say 2,000 pounds of pressure. Is that
Mhm.
how you guys fill your tank? When somebody gets a full tank, does it usually look on their gauge as 2,000, or do you go a little bit higher than that or a little bit less than that?
Yeah, so there's that's a great question. We consider 2000 psi to be a full cylinder. Okay. Occasionally on our Super, the 291s, and the extra large, they'll be around 2200 psi. Okay. And a lot of that too is going to determine on the temperature of the cylinder, the gas inside of it when you're measuring, when you have your regulator and looking at your gauge. The outside temperature is going to determine the inside temperature. And the 2000, 2200 is based on, right around 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, that's what it should be when it's full. And keep in mind, a lot of those gauges out there that we use on the regulators, they're $5 gauges. Um, it's just to give you an idea.
Awesome. And so one of the questions people ask me often is they'll send me a picture of the back of their, the tank of the gauge,
Right.
and they're
Yeah.
like, "Hey, I'm at 1,000. How many balloons can I have out of it?" One of
Right.
the questions is it true that as the tank goes down, that it's actually less, so it's not exactly half anymore? Or do you think that's being too technical? When I'm at 1,000 pounds on your, super
Mhm.
tank, am I
Right.
looking at still being able to get half the amount? So instead of it being 582, I'm now at, I can't do my math today, but half of that.
Yeah.
Any tips on that?
Yeah. So no, that would be an accurate statement, and then that's kind of what I tell people. They say, "How do I know?" Well, if 2000 psi is full on your gauge, 1,000 is going to be a half, and then most of our gauges right around 500 psi. It has a little red mark. It says empty in there, but it's really 500 psi out of 2000, which is a quarter of a tank left,
Right.
right? Um, but what you really have to do is you have to have a little bit of experience. Use a couple of cylinders. Keep an eye on your gauge. Keep track of how many balloons, what sizes you're blowing up, and then you'll have an idea what to expect. Because what I think an 11, 12-inch latex balloon should be filled to may not be what you think it should be filled to. Obviously, it has to have enough helium to float, right? But maybe you're going to put a little extra in it because you need it to float a little longer. Or maybe you're putting some glitter in it with high float. That's going to add weight. You're going to have some long string on it or something. All of that's going to add weight to the balloon and create, pull, right? So all of that comes into factor, right? So as you do it more and more, um, as some of you know, you kind of figure out, you know, basically figure out what you're doing, okay, and what this tank that I have, what it means to me, what am I going to be able to get out of it? how many balloons, and also especially when you're looking at the gauge. If, like you said, Joette, if you have half a tank, well, then you can probably figure out if you have enough helium for the job ahead of you. Now, with that being said, the real smart way, and there's a cost to this, is to have more than one tank.
Yes.
So you can deplete one tank, switch to the other tank, get your empty tank filled, and stay in business. That's ideal, you know. Uh,
Awesome. A question that popped up is, how do we know if our helium tank is leaking? um, any
well, if you,
tips on that?
yeah, normally the first sign is if you start to talk funny. Um, no, no. So here's the best way. Okay, 99% of the time, if your tank is leaking, it's going to leak from the regulator, okay, or whatever device you have attached to the tank valve to dispense the helium, okay? So if you will, for example, if you just take a traditional balloon regulator and you put it on the tank, put it on securely, uh, open up the valve, look at the gauge, see where it is, turn off the valve, but don't touch anything, and see if that gauge, if the needle stays, in the same place. It shouldn't move. Okay. If it slowly starts to move after, immediately or after a few minutes, then you've got an issue with your regulator. Okay. Um, Occasionally, a tank, the valve will leak. It's not real common, but it does happen. And then there's always, the old squirt bottle with some soap and water, just to, detect bubbles. Um,
So, like, if you feel that there's a leak in your line, you fill up the bottle, a spray bottle with water, a little bit of like dish soap, and then spray it, and then where that leak is at, it'll bubble up. Is that correct?
right, right. Just like any other device you're using air with. Okay. But remember that to detect the leak on your regulator, you're going to want to open the valve, let the regulator get full of gas, and then shut the valve off on top of the tank so that it's not continuously, uh, uh, providing helium to the regulator. Okay. And also keep an eye on the gauge as you're doing that. So I've got a regulator right here. I'll hold up. This is just your basic CG 580 regulator. Okay. Um, so if it's going to leak, most likely it's because either it's not tightened on there very well. I don't know if you can see that. Looks like it's getting a little bit blurry.
Yeah,
Um,
you'll keep it in front of your face or turn off the
yeah.
blur, either way.
Okay. Um,
And
and
let me stop my share for a second so people can see it better. There you go.
Okay. You also have a little O-ring on most regulators. All of them don't have this. Some of them may have a little plastic uh, uh, gasket right here on the tip that's permanent. But a lot of times these rubber O-rings will crack, they'll break, and they'll need you'll have to replace them. Okay, and they just pop on there real easy. The other thing is, of course, the tip. Okay. Maybe it's not screwed in at the bottom tightly. Okay. And normally you need Teflon tape when you replace
If you can
these.
put it down by your shirt a little bit, there you go. Yep.
Got it?
So one thing that a person told me to do from my welding company one time when I had a leak between where you just had your hand underneath the rubber tip is to use a little bit of the nylon tape and then screw it down to have a better connection. Have you done that before or not
Uh,
recommend that?
you know, I, it's probably not going to hurt anything, but
Not the one going to the tank, but the one that's right underneath your where where the
oh,
rubber
right here.
nozzle is connected.
Yeah,
Yes, that
yes,
one.
yes, absolutely. No, you need Teflon tape on the connector, the threads going in to the side of the regulator. Okay. You also need threads, the gauge here. It can be replaced and it can leak. And normally when it leaks from the connection. Okay. but that also requires a little bit of Teflon tape. We sell all these parts, the O-rings, the gauge, the tips, um, because we rent helium tanks and they're getting broken all the time. Okay. Um, Now, a lot of people don't know this. Let me just mention this real quick. Um, um, these tilt valve tips, the rubber tips, okay, they work great if you take care of them. If they get um, if they get jarred just ever so slightly, okay, especially on the bottom, there's a brass valve inside of here, okay, and if that gets bent, then when you open up your tank, helium's going to come out freely. The idea is for that brass rod to go up and fill the hole so the helium does not come out. Then, of course, when you tip it, it allows the helium to come around it. Okay. So that's why it's always really good to not transport or leave a regulator on a tank when you're not using it. Okay.
So yeah, so like with the regulators, I always took them out. I put them in a special place in my toolbox that kept them nice and safe so that they wouldn't get dropped. Because unfortunately, one of my staff did drop one, and it was one with the gauge and broke it. I'm like, oh yay, $75 item rather than the $25 one.
Mhm.
Now
Right.
more like 150. So a couple other things I wanted to have you cover about tank safety is the importance of them being strapped in when you're in a location. Um, Part of that is because fire marshals, especially if you are a retail shop or a warehouse where they come in and
Mhm.
do safety inspections. I was actually there one time when the fire marshal came to Party People after I sold it, and I was still working there. Um, the fire marshal came in and he wanted to know where our tanks were, what kind of tanks we had. So in case of a fire, they were aware of that, but also for safety wise, making sure they're strapped in. Can you talk a little bit more about the importance of why tanks are supposed to be strapped in, especially when they have a regulator on them?
Yeah, well, and I'll start with that, especially when they have a regulator on them. And one of the reasons that is, and normally we're talking about the three largest cylinders, the 110, well, the 110, 125, they're very similar, the 219 cubic foot and the 291 cubic foot. Um, and that basically, the larger ones all should have a cylinder cap. Okay. All right. It's a threaded cap. And this should always be on the tank when it's not being used. Now, if you have a shop or you have in your basement somewhere a tank that's secured against the wall, and there's no children around, it's just you that's going to have access to it. You don't need to leave this on. You want to put this on when you're going to transport it, move it around. Um, and and because this keeps the valve, it protects the valve, it protects it from if it were to tip over the tank, um, you can lose helium, the valve can open up. The case scenario is that the actual cylinder valve could be sheared off, and then, as everybody's heard, it becomes a projectile, a rocket. That's usually not going to happen, but it can happen. Okay. Um, so, and then of course, it's for your own personal safety. You see the picture there. You've got that Velcro strap. That's here too. We sell these. That's a wall strap. Um, and I also, while we're talking about this, Joette, this is another wall strap. I don't know if you could see it here in the picture. Okay, this actually holds, I realize I've got the blur on, two tanks, but we have them that hold one cylinder. Okay. And then we have floor stands too. You all have probably seen the floor stands where you can take with you to an event and basically place the cylinder anywhere and keep it from falling down. Okay. Because the danger is that cylinder falling over on you or somebody else. Okay. And did you want to go into other safety questions, Joad, about certain situations?
Yep, and I've got a couple of the images here, so I'm going to pop them up. So on this, guys, this is in Balloon Babes from Canada, one of our mastermind members, that she shared with us that she has the wood up on her wall as an extra piece to then screw in that strap that was there for the Velcro. And then this one, it's showing you that it's on a stand and then has the Velcro. I didn't ask you about this question the other day, but do you know why a lot of times like the special helium dollies, why they're at a tilt rather than like just standing up?
Yeah, that's just basically for ease of moving it around. Um, a lot of times, because the larger tanks have a little bit of weight to them, you on a two-wheel hand truck, dolly, whatever you want to call it, you have to tilt that back, and you're going to, if you're not familiar with doing it, it's a balancing act. You don't want it to come back too close to you, and you're holding all the weight while you're rolling the cart around. Um, and this way, you've got four wheels. Four wheels are always safer than two wheels, right? Um, so it makes it a whole lot easier. And if you're not very tall, too, it lowers the tank a little bit. So that's basically, it becomes a preference.
Gotcha. So tell us a little bit about safety when we are putting them in a car, when we're putting our
Yes,
helium tanks into a van or a trailer.
yeah, right. And this is what most people out there deal with, okay? Especially people that come and rent from us. And now, granted, the pictures you're looking at now, these are smaller tanks. These aren't the larger tanks. They could be, but they're not. So a helium tank has some weight to it. It's usually a steel cylinder, okay? And it's slippery and it's round, right? So it's not like a square where if you set it in the back of your car, it may slide. But now this thing's going to roll, okay? And if you just so slightly put on your brakes, if it's not secure, it's a projectile. It's coming forward, and then when you take off again, it's sliding backwards, right? So you want to the smaller tanks. A lot of them don't have the cylinders safety caps, okay? As you see on these, okay? So you have to protect that valve, keep that valve from opening up, okay? And you can lay the tank down, but you want to secure it, whether it's in a seat, you strap it, or in the floorboard and you wedge it in. You don't want that rolling around your vehicle, coming up front and hitting you or hitting someone else in the vehicle. And mainly you don't want that valve to, if it comes open, it's extremely loud. A lot of you probably heard that, and you're going to lose your gas. Okay. And now all of a sudden, in a closed environment, you're breathing helium. Well, the lungs aren't crazy about helium because it's not oxygen, especially the heart and the brain. So I think common sense. Be prepared when you go to pick up a tank. Um, have something with you to be able to secure that cylinder. Every vehicle is going to be different, but it just comes down to common sense.
And then I know one of the number one questions I've had over the years from people when I'm doing helium is they've seen things on TV where people suck the helium and have their voice sound funny. So a lot of times adults will be like, "Ooh, can I have a helium balloon?" Or "Can I just suck the helium off your tank?"
Right.
And
Yeah.
my answer is always like, "Well, my liability insurance doesn't really appreciate when I have that happen." Um, but can you explain to people why inhaling helium is not a smart idea?
Yeah. So, especially directly from the tank. I mean, never from a regulator directly from the tank. A lot of people have died that way because of the amount of pressure coming out of there. But helium, most of you probably know it's a noble inert gas. There's no danger to the gas itself. It's basically the fact that it's displacing oxygen. It's, replacing the oxygen in your lungs. your heart, your brain, and you're going to pass out eventually. Maybe, I don't think anyone's ever inhaled helium out of a balloon, like you're not supposed to, um, and not felt a little bit lightheaded, you know. Um, so, just think about that feeling lasting for a minute or two, where you have that much helium in your lungs. And when there's helium in your lungs, there's not room for oxygen. So it's just not a good idea. It's not a good idea,
Yeah,
especially
so
with children.
a lot of times because people have seen it online, or a funny thing on a movie, they ask for it. So just encouraging people not to do it. And then the other question is just overall safety of helium tanks, and a little bit about it being non-flammable, and then just other things that we need to know about the condition of helium. A question that came up in the chat was like,
Sure.
if you have your helium tank for a long period of time, do you lose the helium over time, or does it go bad? So if you can
Yeah.
share that along with the non-flammable part.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and like I said, helium is inert. It's not flammable. It doesn't have any smell. It's and that's what's so beautiful about the gas. Okay. But what you're dealing with is compressed gas in these cylinders, and that's where the danger comes. Okay. And that's why you want to secure them. That's why you want to use them in a large enough area where if there is a leak, you have plenty of oxygen in the area of the room where it's not going to make a difference. If you're in a car and you empty a huge tank, you could really get lightheaded, right? So leave the window open. You can leave cylinders in the car if it's not really, really hot. Okay.
And
Um,
please define that, because a question that came in the chat is, as far as having it in our vehicle or having it in a garage, like what's that temperature cutoff that's best for us to move it into a temperature controlled environment?
okay. They say 120 degrees Fahrenheit. You don't want it to be hotter than that. And it can get that hot in the car real quick. Okay. Reality is it's going to have to get much, much hotter than that to really expand to where it probably creates a safety danger. Okay. But don't take chances. Okay. Um, if it's not 95 degrees outside, it's 70 degrees in the fall, winter, and you've got a job and you loaded it the night before in your car. Okay, maybe leave the window cracked, or before you get in it, open the door for a couple minutes, so that if any helium did leak, you're not going to be breathing it in. Because remember, you can't see it, you can't smell it, and you don't even know it's there. Okay. Your lungs don't know, your body doesn't know the difference. Your brain does, but your body doesn't. Okay. Um, so yeah, that's helium also. You had that placard up there, Joette. It's not flammable, okay, but it is it's compressed gas, like I said. So yeah, and can it get warm and expand? Yes, it's going to. Okay. Um, but also you got to keep in mind with the expansion and contraction of helium, with heat and cold air, um, you don't want to start a job in the wintertime and your tank is ice cold, and you take it into the facility where you're going to be blowing up balloons. And it's going to take a while for that to kind of get closer to room temperature. So all that compressed gas is not going to be the amount of gas you need in your balloon for your job right away. And the exact same thing when the tank's very hot. Okay. So try to keep it between, 60 and 75 degrees, something like that, especially before you start to inflate your balloons.
Awesome. What I want to do is, I know some people are having to jump off. I want to let you guys know that I have offered to all of our people from PS Helium that if you wish to join my Balloon Boss Mastermind program or my Decor 101 program or my online, you can use PS Helium, the number 10, PS Helium, the number 10 on Mastermind or Decor 101 to save $10 off your first month. So I just wanted to share that because I know a couple people are having to jump off. And also, I will be on a tour this summer, and PS Helium is letting us hang out at their shop after the class on June 2nd. So if you come to the class on June 2nd with me, our hotel's not that far away. We'll go over to PS Helium afterwards to hang out and see all the great stuff. So I wanted to make sure, a couple people had told me privately that they're having to jump off. So I wanted to make sure that you guys get that information before you go. So we've got lots of other great questions that have been coming up. So I want to make sure that we get them answered. Um, when you were talking about that the helium, it doesn't have a smell to it, we're not going to know it's in the air. Is it like if we start feeling a little bit lightheaded possibly first? Or is it just really important for us to always like check those gauges while we're doing balloons to see if it's going down when we're not using it, kind of thing? Any tips on that?
Yeah. So I said we would kind of keep it real in real life, situations. It would you're not going to have a problem if you're in a large enough area. Okay. You're not going to notice. It's not going to affect you. We're talking about first of all, what does helium want to do? It wants to escape, right? But it also wants to go up. So, even if you're in a room, um, with a crack underneath the door, but it's a very small room, it's all around, it's going to go up towards the ceiling like heat, right? Um, so it's not a really huge concern as long as you're not in a small, um, uh, you know, a small area and you have a lot of helium leaking out. If you just have a little small leak that you can't even hear anything coming out of your tank, okay, um, it's not going to be enough volume of gas at one time to make a difference. You're not going to know. Okay. Uh, but yes, if you started to feel lightheaded, you may uh, you may want to get some fresh air.
Cool. So I've had a couple people ask me if they'll be able to do a replay later to miss to listen to the parts they missed. And yes, one of the things with everything I do in Balloon Coach, it's always recorded. Today, since this is a free lunch and learn, thanks to Bill from PS Helium and Balloons, this will also go up on my Balloon Coach YouTube channel, and it will go into my open Facebook groups. So yes, you will be able to listen to the replay. And if you're a Balloon Boss Mastermind member, you'll have access to in those replays also. So I want to make sure I got that question. And we've had a couple other ones pop up. And guys, if there's other things that you have questions for Bill, please type it into the chat. One of the questions came up about using 60/40. Are there any times when you tell people that it's probably not smart to use 60/40 as they're inflating their balloons?
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I've got a little regulator. This is a 60/40 regulator by Con1. Okay. And basically, if you're not familiar with using it, it's for helium, and you would put your balloon. It's a push down valve. Okay. So it's connected to a helium tank. And what happens is when you push it down, it releases the helium. It sucks in a certain amount of air. So it's mixing 40% air, 60% helium. Now, if you're inflating, and Joette and I were talking about this not too long ago, if you're inflating smaller balloons, yes, it may work in 11-inch and it may work for you, but it's not going to probably float as long. And if you're using high float, you certainly better fill that balloon up, as large as you can, okay, because the balloon needs lift, right? And air doesn't lift; it just fills space. Okay. Now, when you get into 18-inch, 24-inch, 36-inch, and larger, and maybe some bubbles, that's when it really, really comes in handy. One is you're using more helium to begin with in those balloons. Okay. And if you can reduce the amount, boy, there's a huge savings there. Okay. But if you're going to use it in, like I said, 11, 12-inch balloon, really test way ahead of time what you're doing, the application. Okay. And I would do that even with the larger balloons, just so you have, a frame of reference.
Yeah. the number one thing I did when I was working a lot with helium is I inflated an 11-inch, a 16-inch, an 18, a 24, and a 36-inch. And I inflated one set with 100% helium, and then another set with 60/40. And then I used high float in another set. So like I
Right.
made sure that I was doing it without high float, with high float, with 60/40, not with 60/40, like all the different ways. So 60/40 with high float, 60/40 without high float. And then I would write on the balloon with a Sharpie HF for high float, and then 60/40 if I did it that way, and put the date and
Right.
the time, and then watch them over time, because every place that you do helium is different. So what we have here in Florida that can float in Denver sometimes can't, because of the elevation. So
Right.
the higher your elevation, the less lift that the balloons have. And there's actually like some balloons that won't float there. The other thing that happens is as you go up in elevation, the helium, I will make sure I do this right, it expand, no, wait, and it'll pop on you, right? Like the higher you go, the balloon's going to pop.
Yeah, correct. Usually due to the pressure. Also, if they get up high enough, they will freeze, kind of shatter, very, very cold as you get higher up. So those two elements, yeah.
A question came up where somebody said they were told that their distributor shortchanges them on filling the tanks. Um, would the number one be to make sure you gauge it as soon as you get it, make sure that it's up at that 2000 psi?
Yes, and I try to get all of our staff when people are picking up tanks to show them that it's full, and make sure that they understand how to use it, and make sure that they know that latex balloons only last about a day. Don't inflate them today for tomorrow, unless you're using high float. So there is an educational process to it. Um, you just ask the distributor what they consider full. Now, the situation that you're referring to, but there's probably a reason. I don't think there's any reason for people not to provide a full tank, deliberately. Um, so the aluminum cylinders, we sell them. It's a 55 cubic foot cylinder. They come in a few different sizes. A lot of those tanks are only rated to 1800 psi. Okay. And that's because they're aluminum, they're not steel. Okay. So there are markings on a tank that tell what the max fill is. It's very confusing if you're not familiar with them. If anybody ever has a question about their cylinder, or they get a tank or a regular, feel free to email me, take a picture, email me, give me a call, whatever. I'll be happy to try to help you figure out what the issue is, and give you some guidance if I can.
Oh, that's awesome. Questions that have come up is there ever a time like your helium is going to go bad? Like if I had a tank that sat there for like 2 years because I decided to do air filled rather than helium, is my helium still going to be good 2 years later?
Yes, yes, it should be fine. You know,
Is there a
assuming it's
certain
still in
shelf
the
life?
tank. No, there's not a shelf life, not that I'm aware of, and you know, let's put it this way: if you keep it in a cylinder and it stays in that cylinder long enough, you're probably going to forget it's in there, before it would ever leak out or go bad. You know, um, so yeah. Now helium cylinders themselves, although steel doesn't go bad, the cylinders do need to be pressure tested every so often. Aluminum cylinders, on average, about every 5 years. It differs. There's some other variables. Steel cylinders, they are usually, the testing process is done today. Usually, it's good for about 10 years, from when it's been pressure tested. and they have inspection dates on them. Okay.
Awesome.
And like I said, if anybody ever wants to know if their tank is, has been pressure tested and it's qualified to be refilled, if you don't have a company that's supplying you, feel free to email me a picture or let me know. I'll try to walk you through how to identify that.
Awesome. Um, what I want to do real quick, guys, just so you'll know when you'll be able to come hang out with us at PS Helium, is share you this, and then we'll answer a couple more questions that just popped up. So when you go to BalloonCoach.com this summer, you can click on hands-on training. And on hands-on training, you'll see that I have 2 retreats this summer. There are 3-day business retreats, one in Otter Rock, Oregon, and the other one in Waco, Texas. So if you're really wanting to spend some time on your marketing plan and having a great plan for the end of the year, Tabitha Miller will be joining us, thanks to our friends at Vitalik. So you can register for those. Send me an email or a DM, and I'll be glad to give you a discount code. And then my first class for the summer will be in Atlanta, Georgia at a hotel. We will be at the Marriott Atlanta Northwest Emory area. And then that class goes from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Balloon drops, pop drops, sales workbook, foil designs, ceiling decor, and networking. And then at the end of the class at 4, we'll pack up and we'll all go to PS Helium and hang out a little bit. So please know that that's available for you. And then for all of our other Atlanta folks too, we are doing a dinner the night before. So on June 1st, Holland and from Balloonacy and Flowers by Holland is hosting for us to go there to network and see her space and have dinner. So I wanted to make sure you guys know about that. Plus, there's a lot of other locations that you can come and join me this summer. So just check that out. I wanted to make sure you guys knew that there was an opportunity for you to go and actually go by Bill's on June 2nd with a group of us that night too. And I appreciate Bill hosting that. Holland says, thanks for having this. Hope to see you folks at the social Sunday evening, June 2nd in Chamblee. And she had also shared that Bill and his team are great. His staff, she said, Bill is the best and he and his staff are so helpful every day. And thank you for that. So I wanted to make sure you guys heard that shout out because that makes a difference when you're buying your balloons and when you're getting your helium tanks to have somebody that can help you out and take care of things in a great way. So let's see. A question had come up about that you have an empty tank for sale, but it can't be shipped. This person's from Virginia. So is there any certain reason that you prefer not to ship those tanks? Is it a safety thing or the weight just makes it not worth being able to ship it?
Oh yeah. So we do ship in we can ship empty cylinders. Okay. That's not a problem. Okay. It's the it's the disposable cylinders that we do not ship, or cylinders that are filled. Okay. Um, some companies do ship those ground. We do not get into that. That's a whole different level of shipping and education and costs, and that's just not. And because of the weight, it's not really it's not feasible.
So the person who would like to buy your empty tank, should they just reach out to you directly?
Yeah, absolutely. They can place an order online or email us, call us. We have the little mini, we have the 40 cubic foot, and we have the 55 cubic foot that we sell.
So it's the smaller tanks that can get shipped.
Correct. Yeah. The 20, the
Great.
40, and the 55.
Perfect. Wonderful. So guys, if I missed a question, because we had a lot of conversation going on in the chat, if I missed something, feel free at this time to open up your mic or turn on, open up your mic and ask or type it into the chat and I will be your voice. I want to make sure that you guys know how to get a hold of PS Helium. So I'm just going to show you their website real quick while we're waiting for those questions to come in. So again, pshelium.com. As you can see, they have a lot of stuff going on. They have upcoming classes that are happening, all the fun stuff that they carry. So you can check that out. Lots of great brands are there. And I love these new balloons by Vitalik. They're so fun. With the tractor, the fire truck, the airplane, and construction ladder because it doesn't have anything on it.
Yeah.
Oh, look, he's got a cheer megaphone in white. That's awesome.
We
I
have
did
those in
see that the
black
other day.
too. Just got those in. Just got
Those
those
are,
in.
oh my goodness. I need you to hold me some. Um, I need 5 of them. So these are great, guys. So lots of wonderful things on here for you to be able to order online. And also, he's got the color guide. So check him out, show him some love, and thank you. Thank you again, Bill, for giving us this time today. And then just one more reminder, guys, if you want a coupon for this summer to hang out with me in Atlanta, Louisville, Kentucky, Schaumburg, Illinois, Portland, Oregon, Los Angeles, California, or come to one of our treats in Otter Rock, Oregon, or Waco, Texas, please go to the website and check out the details. Email me for a discount code. And I'm also having meetups, which is just a meal and like touring a person's business in Des Moines, Iowa, Omaha, Nebraska, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, going to Mount Rushmore if anybody wants to hang out with us on that day for dinner, Yellowstone, and then also doing a dinner in LA, and then Wesley Chapel, Florida. So all of that stuff is at BalloonCoach.com. Look at the hands-on, and we'll be glad to give you that information. Show Bill your love by going to PS Helium and checking out their website if you're not in their local area. And what I'm going to do is turn off the recording so those people who have questions that sometimes they're afraid to ask online during a recording won't be there. And I want to let you guys know that anytime you're on a meeting with me, whether it's my Decor 101 program or Mastermind program, at the end we always turn off the recording and have open Q&A to kind of help you guys take that next step in your business. So if you have other questions you want answered about helium specific, email me, joette@ballooncoach.com. And if it's something I don't know, I will pass it on to Bill to help you guys have those other tips for your safety and everything that is all about helium. So, Bill, thanks again. Any closing remarks before I turn off the recording?
No, just thanks to everybody for coming on, and you know, you guys are great. I'm just so happy to be a part of the community that you guys are in, that Joette's in. I mean, we absolutely love it. We have so much fun here. I mean, it's just it's an absolute blast. And let me just say this too, and I mean this sincerely, is I've dealt with a lot of balloon artists, and we've done a lot of collaborated with a lot of artists doing classes, and there's some great artists out there. But there's not many people that teach like Joette does, because she's not just teaching you how to do different techniques and things like that. It's the whole gamut, the balloons, everything. Okay. And just to have someone like her to lean on as you learn, as you grow, it's invaluable. It's invaluable. So, Joette, thanks for all you do, and um, thanks for having me.
Thanks. I love helping people who are overwhelmed take their next step in their business. And my passion from being in the industry since 2003 is just to help other people save time and money and learn from all the mistakes I made and from all the wonderful people I've learned from over the years. So I love being able to connect people together with distributors like you and other people in our industry that have the knowledge that I don't have to help them with their business. So thank you for those kind words. That was very sweet. So guys, again, you can always contact me, joette@ballooncoach.com. Send me a DM, Joette Myers Giardina, or Balloon Coach Joette on Instagram. I look forward to talking to you guys soon. Thank you, Bill.
Yeah.
So we got a question about inflators that have a little round piece that goes into the foil inflator. So Bill's going to share with us what that's about.
Yeah, I was trying to get the blur off, but anyhow, so
So you just put it in front of your shirt down a little bit. Yep, you're good.
yep, okay,
Perfect.
all righty. So this is the little rubber tail valve that we've been talking about, right? And this is for latex, and it can be used for foils and a lot of other things. But if you're doing a lot of foils, you probably want to get a regulator like this. It's called a dual regulator. This is for foil balloons, okay? And what happens is it's got a nice brass tip, which will slide up
And
in the sleeve of the
move that
foil.
the brass tip in front of your shirt a little bit, down just a little bit. Perfect.
Okay, you see it? Okay.
There you go.
Um, okay, so what happens is when you push this down, it releases helium into the balloon. And when the balloon gets full, the back pressure, okay, um, stops the helium from coming out. So it regulates that process. Okay, similar to your gas. When you're putting gas in your car, when it comes back up and hits the handle of the gas nozzle, it shuts it off. This does it with air. Okay.